Hello everyone and welcome to LEGO Star Wars Hot Takes episode 37. As always, if you have any hot takes or controversial opinions about LEGO Star Wars that you want me to discuss next week, make sure to go ahead and drop them down in the comments below. But without further ado, jumping right into it, this first one comes from Big B Reviews. He says, hot take, the 2008 ATTE is overrated. It has too much dark gray, it has very large gaps, and the interior has like no floor space. And I agree with this. I've actually kind of thought this for quite a while now. The 2008 ATTE, as cool as that set is, I mean, everyone loves a massive playset, but as cool as it is, it's just kind of outdated. Like you said, the interior doesn't have much floor space and there's a lot of gaps in the build. And you know, if you would have said this like maybe 3 or 4 years ago, it would have been an actual hot take. But I think nowadays, at this point, a lot of people have kind of come to their senses and just realized that this set and other sets from 2008 just are outdated. And the later sets in the 2010s from like 2014 to 2019 is where the quality of LEGO Star Wars really reached a high point. And then from there, it's kind of been downhill since. But again, back to this ATTE, I agree with this, and I think a lot of other people do too. It's like, yeah, the set's awesome, it's iconic, we all love it, but I think most people think the 2013 and the 2022 ATTEs are a lot better. Captain Reg says, hot take, the midi-scale Venator is better than the UCS. Rex isn't exclusive anymore, and Yularen is kinda cheap. Plus, the UCS has miscolored stickers, and the midi-scale has only printed. Plus, one is actually affordable, and you don't need an ultra-large shelf. And I mean, this obviously just comes down to preference. This is definitely very subjective, and I mean, both these sets are incredible. I'm really looking forward to the midi-scale Venator. I'm very excited to get that and review it. But if I had to pick between these two sets, like, obviously I'm gonna pick the UCS one, because in this scenario, I think it really simply comes down to just bigger is better, because the UCS Venator is just, it's freaking awesome. I love that set. It's one of my favorite sets in my collection. I love a massive display piece. It looks so cool sitting on a shelf. And because it's bigger, obviously it has tons more detail and tons more to look at compared to the midi-scale one. And yeah, on paper, it might have more things wrong with it, which are completely valid to point out. Like you mentioned, the miscolored stickers as well as Captain Rex. But I think that stuff in comparison to the rest of the set is just so small and easy to look over that it doesn't really matter all too much. But again, I mean, I think both these sets are great. It's just like if I had to pick between the two, obviously I'm going to pick the UCS one. Cameron Boyle says, hot take, the old P2 fig is better than the new P2 one. And yeah, that's what I like to see. At this point, LEGO Clone Troopers have been bad for so long that I feel like a lot of people have gotten used to them. And then when you point out how they're bad and not as good as the ones that released in the 2010s, like the old P2 ones like you mentioned, people are like, oh my gosh, stop complaining, blah 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 blah. But it's like, no, they were better in the 2010s and we want them to be good now. And I'm glad there's still people out there that actually agree with this, because at this point, I mean, it really is a hot take to still say this. Halo Enjoyer says, hot take, some of the recent detail is bad because it sometimes prohibits the structural stability. Granted, this is the most common issue, but the $160 Star Destroyer flaps fall apart if you grip them more than slightly. And I'm gonna be honest, well first I assume you're talking about recent playsets and how detailed they are, so I assume you're just talking about sets from like 2022 to now. But anyways, I'm gonna be honest, I have never really had problems with these sets being fragile at all. Obviously excluding the recent Turbo Tank, but all the other ones are actually extremely durable in my experience. I mean, despite all the controversies and the inaccuracies with minifigures, etc., if you put all that stuff aside, I mean, current LEGO Star Wars playsets are the most detailed and structurally sound they've ever been. I mean, the playsets they're releasing today are insanely durable. And you mentioned the $160 Star Destroyer, and honestly, I've never had a problem with that set. The handle works really well, and if you don't use the handle, the set is still just very easy to transport. I've never had problems with pieces falling off or panels falling off or anything like that. So I don't know, maybe I'm just lucky and other people have bad experiences with these playsets, but I don't. Umizumi says, hot take, LEGO should only make one UCS set a year to make more room for playscale sets. The majority of UCS sets do not cut it with the amount of minifigures. Paying hundreds of dollars for 1 to 4 minifigures, though there are some exceptions, is criminal. They should just make one 400 plus UCS set with 8 to 15 minifigs a year and release more playscale sets. And well, there's kind of a lot of weak points with your argument here. The first and most obvious one is that LEGO Star Wars UCS sets are about the builds and not the minifigures, and they've always been that way. They've always been known as a massive display piece, so the fact that most of the time they only include 1 or 2 minifigures is fine. However, if you want to get into Master Builder Series sets like the Cantina or the Cloud City, that's a different story. But then I feel like another weak point for your argument is that LEGO only releases 2 UCS sets a year, so they're not really a problem. The sets that are really taking up slots for more play sets are sets like the helmets, the dioramas, the midi-scale sets, and especially the buildable characters, because we get so many of those. And then also, not to mention, UCS sets came out in 2000, the second year of LEGO Star Wars, so that pretty much makes them like the OG sub-theme. UCS was the first sub-theme of LEGO Star Wars. Wars. So in my head, when talking about sub-themes that LEGO needs to cancel, UCS is the only one that can't go. If they cancel a sub-theme or at least make less of a sub-theme, it should be one like buildable characters, helmets, midi-scale, etc. It definitely should not be UCS sets. John Lucas Allen says, probably not very hot take, microfighters are pretty useless and badly designed sets. Instead, they should be replaced by miniature ships similar to those that came with the planets in a minifigure years ago. And well, actually, I think this is actually a hot take. I think a lot of people like microfighters, myself included. Now, I think your comment can apply to mechs. I think those sets are useless and poorly designed. However, microfighters, especially the recent ones, are really awesome. I mean, Plo Koon Jedi Starfighter is genuinely one of my favorite sets that released in 2025, and because of that set, I really want to see other Jedi Starfighter microfighters. I think Anakin's would work really well, Obi-Wan's would work really well, and then maybe some like Ahsoka's or Mace Windu's would also work really well. Rex's Y-Wing is another good microfighter, even though Rex the minifigure itself kind of sucks, the actual set as a whole is pretty good. And then even going all the way back to the very first microfighters like the Turbo Tank, I think that one is awesome. So yeah, I disagree with this one, and I actually think it is a hot take. I'm pretty sure a lot of people like microfighters. 501st Clone Trooper says, bought the UCS X-Wing on sale as my first UCS Starfighter, complete waste of money. Literally a fragile statue that is impossible to store. I expect the Interceptor and upcoming Naboo Starfighter to be the same. I now buy the Ninjago City modulars instead, which are roughly the same price, way prettier, way better figures, way better value. And well, that last part you said about Ninjago, I mean, that's just subjective, it just comes down to what you want. However, I will say that I too had problems with the UCS X-Wing. The panels on the back half where the wings connect to the main part of the ship are very fragile and fall off when you just barely touch them, which I found to be very, very annoying. And then there's also some other fragile areas in that set as well. So again, like you, I also had a bad experience with the fragility of this set. I think it looks really good, it's a beautiful model, but it is very fragile. However, I do have to say, I don't think you should judge every UCS Starfighter based off your experience with this X-Wing, because that's the only one that I've found to be fragile. The TIE Interceptor is perfect. I mean, that set is extremely durable, you can pick it up with one hand, and I expect the upcoming UCS N1 Starfighter to be the exact same. The X-Wing really is kind of an oddball outlier when it comes to the fragility of these sets, because the other ones, like I mentioned, are very, very durable. And if you're open to it, I would encourage you to get a different one, probably the TIE Interceptor, instead of just calling it quits right away because of this X-Wing. Lost Spellcheck says, hot take, fans had too high of expectations for the new ARC 170 and hate on it unnecessarily. It's a great set with flaws that are definitely understandable, but I personally think were overblown. And yeah, I can definitely see where you're coming from, and I've actually thought this too. The 2010 ARC 170 being such a great set, combined with a literal 15-year gap from that one to the new one that just released, is kind of a recipe for fans to just be let down, because that's like too much anticipation building. But on top of that, I do think there are still things that are wrong with this new ARC 170, and yeah, there are some people that overreacted to them and did kind of blow them out of proportion. But the main thing for me is just the stickers on the windshield. At this point, I've talked about this so many times, but I just hate how they look. I hate how they're miscolored when they're put on there, and I hate how they're misrepresented on the box. They're supposed to be white, but the actual color looks like a freaking wet paper towel. And unlike some other flaws with this set, this one is actually very, very noticeable. Like, you don't even have to look for it to notice. And then considering that the 2010 model didn't have this problem, the stickers on that set look fine, it just kind of makes it even worse. But for the most part, I can get behind your argument. I see where you're coming from. Me says, hot take, the UCS Cell Barge is a top 3 UCS set of all time. The only reason people dislike it is because of the price. And then you guys can read that last part. And well, the first thing I'll say is that I do have to admit this set has definitely grown on me since I first got it back in 2024. However, I still definitely want to say this is a top 3 UCS set of all time. I'd give it the top 10, but definitely not top 3. And yeah, like you mentioned, the price definitely was the main complaint with it from myself and other people. This set being $500 just felt like too much. It really feels like maybe a $400 or $450 set. But aside from the price, one main problem I had with it was the lack of minifigures. Because if we're being honest with ourselves, like, obviously this is a UCS set, but at the same time, it's also kind of borderline MBS, because unlike other UCS sets, it has a very detailed and fleshed out interior, and it's representing a scene that showed a lot of different characters. So because of that, I think it just needed more figures. I think it needed the Mos Eisley Cantina treatment. I mean, that set has what, like 20 figures, and they're all just a bunch of super awesome, cool background aliens. And I just think this Cell Barge really needed that treatment, because even when you have all the figures in there, there are parts of it that still feel just a bit empty. I mean, I really think it needed at least 3 or 4 more background aliens. Anyways though, that's gonna do it for this episode. As always, if you have any hot takes or controversial opinions about LEGO Star Wars, make sure to go ahead and drop them down in the comments below. If you're new, please consider subscribing, and And if you want to check out more of my videos, you can see them on the screen right now.